Hi, hello everyone. This is Bhuvan here again with another series of STEM Talk with leaders. And today we are delighted to have Nilesh Shahji, Managing Director, Mesco Springs with us. He is a leader from the industry with over 20 years of experience, and he is really passionate about STEM. And from what I know, knowing him personally also, his passion has made him create a STEM lab in his own industry, which children from underprivileged backgrounds can also access. So Nilesh ji, welcome to this series of discussions. Thank you very much for sparing time.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. We'll be asking you some questions and we will seek your responses and we will be sharing these responses with the, our constituents, children who watch this show, and we want them to feel encouraged and be inspired by, what you've done in the past and, your learnings. So we'll start the interview with a question that is on top of every student's mind. Why are industry leaders so interested in STEM and STEAM education?
Yeah, so let me put it this way. It's not just currently, but industry leaders have always been interested in STEM and STEAM, maybe the applications. Primarily, it is gaining prominence because now we started coining those terms. Otherwise, industry has always been looking for disruptive, innovations. So here we are not talking about simple innovation wherein there is only an incremental change, in the systems that are currently being used. We're talking about a complete disruption of whatever is there in existence and taking it to a completely new level and then trying to stabilize it over the long period. Now, obviously, why is the industry looking at this? Simply because very soon they have realized that it's no longer enough to do the business. It's no longer enough to stay in the environment which was prevalent, maybe even 25, 15, even last 5 years. So there has always been a very, very dynamic change. And unless they do the changes, survival is going to become difficult. And the new challenges that are going to come and which are going to get posed are only going to be multifold. So if they don't prepare themselves now, obviously it will be too late.
Right. Thank you. You are aware of India STEM Foundation labs that they provide simulated work environments. From your own experience, could you tell us how important is hands-on learning for young ones in simulated environments?
Well, I cannot even undermine the importance of hands-on learning. It's like, why do kids play with toys? Why do we give our children that joy to play with, even a simple thing like a balloon or even a simple, a key-driven toy? What is in it there for them? You just drive it once and then it's over, but it's not that. It's the curiosity that, that toy or that experience of handling that toy gives to the young kids, to the young brains who are so creative and who have such a fertile mind. We are only helping them stimulate it, and whether it is that young or a 50-year-old like me, or even a 75-year-old or an 80-year-old, as long as they stay in the simulated environment and as long as they're able to apply something and drive their curiosity, I think this hands-on learning is there for everyone, and more so, of course, for our youth. It is just mandatory, and I cannot even start to tell you, what would happen if you don't have this. It is just a given that this is extremely important, and if we don't have it, we are incurring huge losses.
Absolutely. And you've pointed out an area of real importance, that hands-on learning is important for everyone, irrespective of age. It helps us in learning better, in learning deeper. Basis what you've just answered, I would want to learn from you What is that myth, misconception that you've come across around STEM when you've spoken with children, when you've interacted with the students at World Robot Olympiads?
Yeah. So what happens is I would generally draw most of the examples from the Indian context, because that's where we have more of interaction, and that's where we've interacted with a lot of children. Or for that matter, even the coaches and the mentors. So they feel that our academics is always compartmentalized. So it's like if I'm doing science, if I'm doing math, if I'm doing, say, physics under the section of science, my physics is quite different from my chemistry, and it's quite different from my biology. And my mathematics comes nowhere close to anything. So if I'm doing a math problem, I'll be doing only a math problem. If I'm doing physics, I'm specifically told that these are all under ideal conditions. All my formula and everything will be applicable only under ideal conditions. Now, same conditioning of the mind is carried on when we do the STEM programs, be it any WRO, FIRST programs, FLL, whatever it is. The same mindset continues. And here, I would say primarily even the coaches, mentors, and then the students, they would all say that, sir, I would like to do only coding. I would like to do only mechanical construction, or I would like to do only electrical. So it's fine, So this is the biggest misconception. STEM doesn't work that way. It's an integrated application. It cannot work in a discrete phase. Then what is the difference between what you're learning and STEM? STEM is always going to be integrated. But yes, there could be specializations. I'm not saying no, but that doesn't absolve your duty or your responsibility from learning the other things. So just to give you an example, we had some kids who have joined our FRC team saying that I'm going to do only coding. I said, you're most welcome, please join. And when they come with that kind of a mindset, they see that a mechanical construction is being done, the robot or the mechanism is being built. And then I ask them, okay, fine, now deploy your program and let's see how it works. Very obviously, it fails, and it fails miserably, not just once, but multiple number of times. And they say, my code is right. Why is it not working? The mechanical guys will say, our construction is perfect. Why is it not working? It's a simple thing that both the teams have not got together. They have not actually, put their brains together and made sure that they understand each other's shortcomings well, such that, the mechanical construction guys can overcome whatever their skills are and help in overcoming the programming constraints, and similarly vice versa. But over the last 3-4 years, we've managed to create this kind of an environment wherein everyone has to learn all the kinds of skills. It is not that you learn only a coding part or only a mechanical part, though at the final stages you may specialize in one, but then it is important to know the other parts also. And here I have seen some fantastic results, Bhuvan, that some of our students who had joined or who had this mindset of only doing coding are now extremely good at mechanical construction. Okay, because they have put in a lot of effort in understanding that, because they found that when they understand it, their coding becomes much more effective, much better, and it is much more application oriented. Same way, the mechanical guys who used to think that only construction is important and they don't need to do coding, they can leave that to the coders. They found that when they learn that coding language, it helps them in making a mechanical construction better. So this is extremely important. These are some of the myths, especially related to STEM, that we need to break.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on its head. Integrated learning is something that is core to STEM and STEAM education. Yeah. And from that, I would want to ask from you, since it's all integrated learning and a lot of self-learning, what is that one subject or a topic or activity that you've done recently by self-learning?
So frankly, Bhuvan, I never got an opportunity to play with all these kinds of wonderful robots and these wonderful technologies. Way back when I did my engineering in '92, nothing was available. And of course, we didn't have that awareness, So I would say that starting right from, when my son joined, these programs, that was around 2010, 2011, since then I've been constantly learning all these new technologies, and it's really given, even today, there are so many things which I don't understand. There are so many things which I feel that, I should really would like to know. But yes, of late, I started learning more of the MATLAB, and I've also started doing SolidWorks, which I never attempted earlier because I was a drafter man, using all the physical drawings and all of that. But yes, these two are the things that I have learned in the recent past. But there's a new learning happening every single day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Spoken like a true leader, who's inspiring so many around him. Uh, um, Nilesh ji, you mentioned you did your engineering in 92, and in 92, Y2K was not an issue. Probably a lot of materials, carbon fiber was non-existing, nanotechnologies weren't there, storage devices have changed 3 times over. And all of these things have happened because of technological obsolescence. I would want to ask from you, so that the children who are watching this can learn, what are those STEM challenges that students will have to solve in the future? I know nobody can predict the future, but what are some of looking at the trends, you've seen so many things change over time. What are some of the things that students will have to solve in the future?
Yeah, so if you see, we've already seeing a lot of changes happening in so many different areas. One key area obviously is energy. No longer we're talking about any conventional energy. We are always now talking about what are the renewable sources of energy. Though the talk of renewable energy has been in existence for the last 30 years, we are now seeing that a lot of changes, a lot of new technologies are coming in, and it is actually being implemented. So this is just one part. Now, how did this happen? It's because there was a disruption. So in the same way, again, it's the youth who are going to disrupt whatever is happening. Today, we are talking about, communication. Now, the pandemic has completely changed, and the meetings are always going to be like this that we are having now. It's going to be a rare occasion that we're actually going to meet in person. So these are all technologies which have completely changed. So communication, energy, and of course, the machine learning and AI, which go together, are going to be the future, and they are going to cause a lot of changes, which at least in my capability, in my capacity, I'm unable to see. No, but yes, certainly there's going to be huge changes.
Absolutely. And Nilesh ji, it is key for us to understand, your response also leads us to understand where the future jobs lie. It is energy, renewable energy, communication, storage of energy, and so on and so forth. And, children who are going to graduate in the coming years will find a lot of opportunities in these areas. Since they are going to get into a very competitive field, and I know you are very familiar with the competitions at WRO and FLL, tell me, how did participating in these competitions, mentoring teams in these competitions, change your worldview? Although you were already worldly wise, but what different did you find when you entered these competitions at a global stage?
So Bhuvanji, I would like to make a small correction. I was never worldly wise. In fact, these competitions, when I started going to them, when I started seeing them, my eyes were like wide open. I couldn't believe that something like this could exist, and it was so seamlessly integrated into a program which the children could do. It was really, really, really amazing. I just couldn't understand, and I just couldn't fathom that something like this could be done. And that is what has really, really driven me. And I made sure that I remained on that particular path. Now, coming to the question that, what is it that about either the WRO or the FLL or any of these STEM competitions that would probably I like, or, probably something that I've learned from them. So one thing is there, at a very young age, when there is a really a fertile mind with you, it becomes very easy to really adapt, and it really becomes very easy to mold them. This is something which over the years I've learned that with being with youngsters also helps you in keeping your mind open. As you grow old, you don't become too rigid because you're with them. You're trying to match up to their steps, and you're trying to make sure that at least in the technological sectors, at least in the technology that they are driving at, you are at least on par, or you're at least trying to catch up. So that is something which I have learned constantly. And at the same time, it gives immense pleasure to see such young children getting these kind of opportunities, and they're really converting them. It's not about competition and the awards winning and all of that, but how they've become a better version of themselves, and how they have made use of technology to make sure that they're at least able to become more aware of the community challenges. So that's something which is phenomenal learning, and it has only accelerated with every passing year.
Absolutely. And, team play, being a team player, working together is critical. Learning new attributes from your team members is critical. And, all of this goes on to, to the next question that I have for you. What is your hobby that helps you problem solve, build your problem solving stamina?
So I still like to play with toys. so
Okay.
so yes, that I would say that in the last few years, at least now, my hobby has become more of STEM, and making sure that how we can apply STEM, how we can create a conducive environment to larger sections of the society, larger sections of our schools, larger sections of our communities. But yes, I've allowed that a little bit of child in me to remain there, and to make sure that I get an opportunity to tinker with a lot of things. Fortunately, my business gives me a lot of opportunity to tinker about ideas, because we manufacture springs, and we make a lot of custom springs. So there is a huge area of application that our springs go to. And every time there is a new application, we make sure that the customer takes us right from the initial conceptual stage, wherein there is nothing on paper. We start understanding the application, designing the entire process, going through the iterations, coming out with the prototypes, and then finally coming to a stage where it can be industrialized. So this has helped me in both the ways. STEM has helped me over here in my business, as well as my business is giving back to me and helping me get back into the STEM. So it's really
that
very
is
helpful.
such a great inspiration. That is such a great example for students to emulate. That STEM education is a continuous learning process where you apply yourself and you gain, professionally and academically. Uh, of course, doing so many iterations, so many, experimentations. I want to ask from you, what is your favorite equation, formula, or quote, that you go to when you are doing complex, problem solving?
So one thing that has always, kind of driven me is a very nice quote by Albert Einstein. He says that creativity is intelligence having fun. So this is what I would always remember, that whatever is your problem, if you become creative and if you let yourself loose and have fun, you will have a solution at the end of the day. This is something which is very, very nice, and I've really enjoyed applying that quote, not just as a quote, but really applying it in whichever field, whether my own professional field or in STEM.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nilesh ji, you've already spoken about integrated learning, and, we now see children, took to digital classes easily. They were able to integrate dexterity, mental alertness, attention spans, everything. They went on easily and adapted to this situation. And it is an indicator that, they are poised to gain more from integrated learning. Tell me, what tips would you give to STEM clubs that are now getting formed across India, across several various schools? What is that one tip that you would want to give to students who are forming STEM clubs?
So first of all, it is the heartiest congratulations to all those who are making attempts to form the STEM clubs. We need more and more of them. And every STEM club will have its own character, will have its own kind of philosophy. But the important part is, when you are making a STEM club, make sure that it becomes sustainable. We have seen that over the years, there are many who start with a lot of gung-ho, start with a lot of excitement, and over the years, they are not able to sustain themselves. Let that not happen to any of the STEM clubs. It's important that a lot of people in the field should try and support whichever STEM clubs are there in existence. That's extremely important. They should join hands, they should collaborate, and they should make sure that there is a lot of learning from each other so that they become sustainable. The other thing would be, most of the STEM clubs have students coming from a lot of international schools, where the exposure awareness is already very high. Obviously, it becomes kind of a responsibility or the onus on the STEM club to make sure that they at least impact a smaller section of the not so privileged society, and make sure that, I'm not saying the absolute underprivileged background, that also you could have, but there are other regular students, who are still going to be, studying in India, even for their graduation, post-graduation, who are still going to be looking for the regular jobs. Why can't they become a part of the entire ecosystem that we are trying to build? So if a Robin Hood type of an approach can be done, wherein the international students handhold a lot of the regular curriculum students, be it SSC medium or the state boards or the CBSE curriculum, make sure that they become a part of it, and help them at least have that experience.
Absolutely. Cross-cultural exchange between students, from various from various backgrounds is only going to help this this melting pot come up with better ingredients, better offerings for the entire society to improve the standard of living, the temperament, scientific outlook, so on and so forth. Very interesting thoughts.
And one thing is that always we still have a lot of disproportionate in terms of the representation. So girls in STEM are extremely important, and that's what we at least call them. We call them gems. So they are girls in engineering, math, and science. So we need more and more of gems, and they should be encouraged in every club.
And I can promise you, Nilesh ji, very soon we'll have gems also in Talks with STEM Leaders series. I can promise you that. And, we certainly need girls to lead the path, because a girl is the first teacher in a family. She actually teaches a lot of behavior to not only her parents, but also her peers and, the generations to come. So most important for us. Thank you very much for highlighting this. I would have, I did not plan to ask this, but thank you for bringing this up. This is most important. And also the aspect of cross-cultural exchange, it is most important. It helps in dealing with a lot of challenges at societal level, certain failures that exist in societal levels, which discourage students in openly discussing certain things. And that leads me to my last and final question from you. How do you deal with failure? Because while experimenting in STEM fields, students often face a lot of challenges, their failures, their recruitment failures, their coding failures, and also, there are failures in communications between teams. So how does one deal with failure? Please, if you could tell us something about it.
So one thing that we tell all our students, all our team members, even our coaches and mentors, is that if you don't fail, it means that you have not tried.
Yes.
And also, if you have not really kind of made any attempts, obviously the failures will get minimized. And again, if you have some individual teams and if they keep agreeing with each other all the times, that means you're not very you're not very sure of yourself. In fact, you are fearing failure, and that's really not going to be helpful at all. So this means that it's important to see failure as not a failure, but a great opportunity to improve upon yourself. And what is the meaning of failure? Ultimately, if you are able to make a better version of your own self, or if a team is able to make a better version of its own self, what more can you ask for? If that is not success, then what is? So we do not measure failures by a reference that has been put by others, but you make your own benchmarks, you make your own kind of milestones, and make sure that you surpass them. So that is what is important. And dealing with failure, I think, it's more of a tendency, or it's more of a kind of a system that has been created by the adults. It's not with the children. If you let them loose, if you allow them to take risk, failure will just come naturally. Today, tell me which of the so many startups are there, how many of them really succeed? We are talking only about those less than a percentage startups which have succeeded. But what about the learnings from those 99.8 probably, we are not talking about them. There's a lot to learn from them. So
Absolutely.
how can they be called failures when you are learning from them?
Absolutely.
That's-
Absolutely.
yeah.
Nilesh ji, you lead by example, and you have shared details about your success, and what children can expect from the STEM field and how they can build a career around it. Thank you very much for sparing time, and we will close this session with a message from Sudhanshu ji, who's founder of it. Yeah,
Bhuvanji, before Sudhanshu gives the message, I have one request to make.
tell me.
Okay. See, STEM is a very, very dynamic field, and STEM is something which is, continuously ongoing. So we need very young STEM leaders, and not like us who have past that age of 50 and all. So make sure that we have a great mix of a lot of youngsters with a lot of vibrant, dynamic energy. And if there are students leaders, we make sure that they are there to inspire everyone, including us. So I think it's very important for them to lead, and we should be able to support them. I think that's very, very important. That's very critical.
Absolutely, Nileshji. We've got a rank 4 WRO team lined up for an interview, and
Very
we'll have students. So you got our pulse, and we are on the right path. Thank you for shining the light on the potential and the possibilities that we can explore. Thank you so much for sparing time.